What if I told you your $100,000 business idea isn't found through scrolling or in a course or in a book? It's actually inside of you. But most people are too busy chasing somebody else's blueprint to see it. Building a business is not just about genius, it's actually more about structure. You see, I've helped people uncover their best ideas using this 9-stage framework because it's based in timeless principles of growth. It's the same framework that has helped me build my business to 8 figures and beyond. So let's walk through it step by step so you can get your business idea off the ground in just 10 weeks. Stage 1, this is clarity, purpose, and vision. First, we're gonna need to work out your why. Why do you want to be in business? Why do you want to start this specific business? Every great business has a why behind it. It exists more than just for the money. It has to make an impact, or it's passionate about something. What is your why? You look at Headspace, the meditation app. It started and it exists to increase health and happiness amongst the world. If you look at Gymshark, why do they exist? Why did they start in the beginning? To unite bodybuilders, to unite weightlifters. If you look at Cycling, my business, why that exists? We exist to change the construction industry. It's a very outdated industry. We're building the technology, we're hiring and training the people to become the best versions of themselves so we can go out and change the industry. What is your why? Let's get into it. Do you notice that these businesses have a mission that's bigger than just making money? Making money is the derivative, it's secondary, but they've got something behind them. There's some essence, there's substance behind them. And this is the thing that we need to tap into you. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna get into it. What type of entrepreneur are you gonna be? What type of life do you want? And what type of business do you wanna run? These are really, really, really clear and important questions that you need to answer before you start out on your journey. If you don't know what you want, how are you gonna get what you want? So it's very, very important to get really clear and specific about what it is that you want. And one of the most important things and one of the best ways to find out what it is that you want is to find out what you don't want. So the first question I'm gonna ask you is, what don't you want in life? And this could be for yourself, for others, as a society, for the planet, whatever. Let's just start to list things, the things that you don't want. So I'm gonna use my example when I first started out and bring in some things that I don't want now and what's true to me. So what don't I want? I don't want people treated as slaves. I don't want a life of no meaning. I don't want to be limited by funds. I don't want a stupid society. And thinking about back to when I started my business, I don't want to be tied down to a clock or to a place. And last but not least, what don't I want in life? I don't want the planet to be destroyed. You know, these were the things that were really, really true to me. And the last one's probably the most important. We've got one planet, so if we were to mess up one planet, then what happens if we mess this one up? Then we have 0 planets, and that's not a very good equation. So let's think about that for a minute, right? But anyway, what you then do, and what I then did, I said, right, well, what are my top 3? What are the most important things that I don't want? If I was to put this in order and list them and say, right, what are the things? These are the things that frustrate me the most personally, or could be what really angers me about society, or what do I feel really passionate about that I don't want to happen. So we're gonna put these in order, and specifically for myself, I didn't want to be limited by funds. I also didn't want to have a life of no meaning. I also didn't want to be tied down to a place or the clock. But if I look at this as well, expanding out a little bit, that was for me personally. But then as a collective, as a society, I then started to say, well, actually, I don't want the planet to be destroyed. You know, I don't want a stupid society who are then treated like slaves. So then I had a individual perspective and I had a collective perspective. What don't I want for myself and what don't I want for others? And I think that's really, really important to understand because it gets you outside of yourself. Now you can look at that, you can say, well, what do I want? Simple. What is the flip side of all of this? I want to have a life where I can enjoy and have my endless choices and I'm not restricted by money. I want a life that has meaning. I want a lifestyle that gives me freedom. So if you look at this, it was about money, freedom, and purpose and meaning. That's for me what's really, really important in terms of my values. But then if I look at outside of myself and say, what do I actually care about for society? Well, I want people to respect the planet that they live on. I want to do something good for the planet. I don't want my business or my life to be something which is void of that. And I don't want a society where people are being dumbed down. I want people to be educated. And then last but not least, I don't want people treated as slaves. I want people to rise up. I want people to be empowered within their minds to become the best versions of themselves. So if you put that all together and you look at the businesses that I now run and what I'm doing now, it aligns with that. You know, SiteLink is a business that focuses very much on the construction site services and the construction sector. And there is no other industry that is closely linked to the state of the planet than the waste industry. You know, so we broker out skips, we broker out a lot of these construction site services, but it's more than that. We're changing the way that the construction sector operates by hiring the best people we can into our business, by training our current people to be the best versions of themselves, by deploying the best technology. We're slowly starting to shift and change the customer journey. And on the flip side, looking at myself specifically, what does that give for me? Well, actually, it gives me a life of meaning because I'm doing something good for the planet. Even though we're a little smidgen when you can't notice it, in my mind, we are doing something good for the planet and we're actually changing this industry. What else do I want? I don't want to be tied down to a clock or to a place. I have the freedom to be able to do what I want now. Once the work has actually got a hold of you and you've sort of consumed your consciousness in this idea, the irony is you crave freedom, but you respect and honor the idea so much that you actually go into it with a use me sort of mindset and attitude. And I'm here being guided by this idea. I don't want a stupid society, so I'm here educating people. And I don't want people treated as slaves. And how do we get out of that? We help people financially to become free so they're not enslaved. But before that, we need people that can rise up and be educated, because once you're educated here, no educated man can become a slave. You know, it chain me up physically, but mentally, you can't touch this space of inner world because I know who I am, and you can't impact my attitudes and how I think. So what we're gonna do now, we're gonna prioritize a list of top 3 things that you do want. And you look at what you don't want, and what you don't want is a mirror of what you do want. It's very simple. So for me, if I look at this list, the first thing that I wanted money freedom, right? I didn't want it to be limited by funds. I wanted the freedom of choice. And I think that's really, I didn't want to be tied down and have to look at the price tags of things all the time and have that negative energy all the time of worrying about money. Number 2, I wanted a life of meaning. I wanted my life to mean something. I wanted my life to have some value. I was doing something good for others, for the planet, what have you. And you'll find that meaning comes from helping people, doing something good for others and for the planet, which inevitably comes back to yourself because you feel good about yourself for doing it. And the third thing that I wanted, and in priority order, was freedom. I didn't want to be tied down to a clock or to a place. I wanted freedom to live on my terms. Now, what you then do is you say, right, okay, what are the obstacles in my way to living a life like that? And when I look back, I looked at this and said, right, okay, what is in my way? What are these obstacles? Well, I didn't have money at the time, so I needed to understand money. I needed to be financially educated. To have money freedom is not just about having money. It's about having money work for you, having a system, an organization, a company that works for you, because you can just give given money and you're not free. You still need to think about how you're gonna save it, how you're gonna earn more, etc. So I wanted a system. I needed a system that could create money for me, that constantly put money in my pocket, and I needed to build that. So I need a system of earning money. I also needed financial education, because I knew that for me to have a system of earning money, I needed financial education. And I also needed business knowledge. You know, I thought, well, money and business are intertwined. If I need a system of earning money, I need to be financially educated, but that system is going to be the business. So I need business knowledge, I need to understand business, I need to understand finances, and then I can create a system of earning money. A life that meant something. Well, what was in my way? I could go out on a street corner and I could, demonstrate and voice my concerns of the world, but no one's going to listen. But in actual fact, if you build a business and that business can take on a idea or a persona of its own, you now have a marketing budget that you can spend to shout about, to communicate, have a marketing message, to bring people into the business and communicate a philosophy, communicate what it is that you believe. And this is what I did. So for me, a business was that vehicle that enabled me to demonstrate meaning, because we were going to do something. The business, once it can expand outside of itself, it can make a much bigger impact than you can individually. Did Apple make the impact or Steve Jobs? Steve Jobs, if he was on his own, he couldn't do much to the world. But through Apple, Look what he's done. He's changed the whole way that we live. That's the power of business. And then freedom to live on my terms. Well, this comes back to money, but not just having money, understanding investments. Why? Because I wanted to start having money work for me. Because I didn't want to be tied to a job. I didn't want to own a job. Even in a business, you can own a job, even if it's your own business. In actual fact, most people own a job within their own business that pays them much less than if they were to get a proper job, and they're working much harder. So for me, I needed to understand all of these things. I needed to have a business. I needed to own a business so my life could mean something, and it needed to contribute towards things that I was passionate about, planet and educating people, so I could then have freedom, have money in my pocket. Business knowledge came with that. You know, I had to understand business. I had to understand finances. I had to understand a system of earning money, and that system was the business. And then I had to understand the life of investments. And once I earned money, I wasn't just going to throw it away. I was actually going to put it to work so it can build this pot so I can have passive income so I didn't ever have to work again. So that was the key. So then once you've done all of that, then what I want you to do is I want you to write a short sentence that encompasses all of what you want, but I also want you to bring in a visionary goal, a goal that has an image, a vision attached to it. And this is going to be your mantra. This is going to be something that you can use to reprogram your mind to keep the important thing the important thing. Because when you go on this journey, you'll forget some of this. When you go on this journey, it will take you and it will shape you and it will take you all over in all these different directions, but you've got to bring it back to what's important to you. So let's do that now. And I'm going to give you again an example of my one. It is now. Always write as tomorrow as if it is today, December 2030. So I'm writing and telling my subconscious mind, it is now December 2030. I'm telling it, future tense, that today is tomorrow, more specifically December 2030. My circle of influence reaches over 10 million people, and my businesses generate millions of pounds or dollars or whatever, and contribute to regenerating the earth. So for me, it is now December 2030. My circle of influence reaches over 10 million people and my businesses generate millions of pounds and contribute to regenerating the earth. I see myself in the boardroom of my head office, and I see in my mind's eye the hundreds of people I'm mentoring as part of my mastermind and of my executive team around me. So for me, this sentence encompasses the entirety of what it is that I want. I'm bringing everything in: the business, the money, the contribution, the helping people. So for me, that statement, I can say that to myself every single day and it will give me that energy, because it brings me back to what it is that I want. This is now living life on my terms. And basically what we're doing is we're using present tense language for the future. We're telling the subconscious mind that it is now December 2030. So that sets positive expectations for the future. And that brings in some positive psychology that heightens us in the moment. And also what you do is you bring in the visualization, which basically taps into the biggest part of the brain. And that is the visionary, the CEO part of the brain. And once you tap into that and you actually get good at visualization, you realize that what happens every day in your chemistry is you heighten your dopamine naturally through this. You don't need anything external to make you feel good. And if it is just making you feel good in the moment, it brings more motivation and more inspiration in the work you do. And this actually gives you meaning because you have a purpose to where you're going. And the key thing with this is I need you to do it in a way which you start to talk to yourself. Now, if you go to a doctor and say you're talking to yourself, they're going to give you pills. I'm telling you, talk to yourself, right? Be purposeful about what you say and use your mantra to start to talk to yourself, to start reinforcing it. And what happens is you start to build up an energy. You build up an energy because you start to believe it. You start to believe it. No one else needs to believe it. You start to believe in yourself. You start to believe in your mission. And guess what happens? People think and people feel and people go, there's somebody that's going somewhere. I want to join, or I want whatever this person's got. I want to join that team. So you start to become a more inspiring leader when you come from a place, when you've rooted this into your being. Close your eyes, bring it into your being, close out the outside world and start to say this sentence to yourself. Start to repeat this mantra every single day and you start to realize that it starts to do wonders on the inside of you. And then the whole world starts to take shape because it's like, wow, there's somebody that's going somewhere. So stage 2, this is about belief and idea generation. And that now that we have your vision, we have your why, we need to get really clear in the business idea. And I think what is so important about an idea is that it has to come from you. We live in the information age, right? And the problem with the information age, as much as it's a blessing, it's also a burden. There is so much information out there. Everyone's trying to sell you their thing. Take my course, listen to this. Here's the idea that you should follow next. But I think the key is that the message that I've got for you is that your ideas have to come from you, nowhere else. It resides, it lives inside of you. Your job is to bring it out. You know, a lot of people scour the internet for ideas and they try and tap onto the next idea, and it's the shiny object syndrome. And then they wonder why it doesn't work, because it hasn't come from a place of congruity. It hasn't come from inside of you. We need to start to build businesses that come from the inside of you, because this is where you're gonna keep going when it gets hard. There's more passion behind it. There's more substance. It's not just, oh, I've been told to do this, so now I'm gonna do it. That doesn't work. We need to start empowering ourselves. We need to start understanding who we are, knowledge of self, and start to build businesses out. What we're gonna do 2 things here. We're gonna start to come up with the idea, but we're gonna start to fan the flames of the idea. And what I mean by that is we're gonna start to build the belief in the idea, because the idea is one thing. That's okay once you've found it, but execution is the most important thing. Like, execution is 90% of it. And you can't execute on an idea unless you have that self-belief, unless you have that belief around the idea. So I think the next thing we need to do once we've come up with the idea is to work on your belief. So we're going to do a couple of exercises to find that idea. And there are 2 ways that we can approach this. Number 1, what I want you to ask yourself is, what do you feel energized about? Good or bad? What triggers you? What are the things that make you feel, oh, that really angers me, or I'm really passionate about that? So what are you passionate about? What is the topic? Good or bad? You know, is there something that you feel really, really passionate about that you want to do good? Or is there something that really angers you that's going on in society? Is there something that really lights you up when you know, what can you talk about for hours? What do people come to you for answers for solutions for? These will start to give you clues about what it is that you should pursue as an idea. And we're just at the idea stage right now, not the business yet. Also, I'd like you to think about your leisurely time. What can you research for hours? What is that topic, that one topic that you can say, right, you know what, that doesn't feel like work. I can go on a journey of flipping open YouTube or going into Google and starting to research this topic for hours on end. That gives you an insight into your passions, into what it is that you're interested in. So that also gives you a clue. And the second thing is, if you can't find an idea out of that, I want you to start to reflect. Reflect on who you are. Reflect on your history, on your upbringing. Because they say there's 2 ways to find an idea to pursue. The first is to find out what you're passionate about, what is good or bad, what triggers you, what lights you up, blah, blah, blah. The second thing is, what challenge have you overcome? So is there something that you've overcome in your life that you can go out and help people with? So I've not come from a wealthy background. My parents split up because we were, I'm not going to say poor, but we were broke. And part of my passion to become wealthy is to not to end up like them. But at the same time, I've come over this hurdle and this challenge of understanding the world of money. So actually, I've overcome this challenge. I can help people with that as well. So mine's twofold. I know what I'm passionate about. I know what I want. I know what I don't want. These are some ideas and inclination into why you're here. Darkness to the light, guru, darkness, Ru, light. Your job is to take your challenges, take all of the stuff that you've been given as a test and to overcome them. What you then do once you've overcame it, you then go back into society. You say, I am now here to help people that are not as far as me on their journey, but I'm going to help them overcome these same problems, because there's loads of people out there struggling. There's loads of people out there with challenges, and they need somebody like you who has done it before to come back and say, right, I'm here to help you. This is what helped me. But this is your journey. This is my journey. I'm not going to push anything down your throat, but if this resonates, then here. This could help you. This is what helped me. So that's the second way that you can find your idea. So now what we're going to do, we're going to start to work on your belief, because it's great. You might have come up with an idea. You might understand what you're passionate about. You might understand what you're against, what you're for, what hurdles you've overcome or whatever. But actually, and the idea might be bubbling up now. You might have an inclination and an idea of what it is. But for you to now take that seed of an idea and run with it, you're gonna need some self-belief. So what I want you to do, the next thing that I want you to do, I want you to list out 2 or 3, one isn't enough, but 2 or 3 role models. Who would you say in this world right now you look up to? Could be somebody close to you. It could be somebody you don't know. It could be a mother or father. It could be a mother or father figure. It could be someone in sports. It could be someone famous. It could be whatever. But list out 2 or 3 role models that you look up to in society and put them to paper. And what I then want you to do once you've listed those people out, I want you to list out 3 characteristics of those people that you admire. What are they? So for me, my role model that I had when I was younger was a guy called Jim Rohn. And Jim Rohn, what inspired me about Jim was he hired Tony Robbins as a spotty teenager, gave him his first job and taught Tony everything he knew up to a certain point. He was the father of this personal development industry. But anyway, he was educated. He spoke. He was so eloquent when he spoke and he could speak to crowds. So he had these communication skills. But what he was educated and that was shown through his communication skills, but he also had this business knowledge. He was this young guy, born on a farm, raised in obscurity, and he ended up making millions because of his businesses. And he had business knowledge, but also business skills. And he would demonstrate that because he would constantly talk about it. So for me, I looked at it and said, right, so I was inspired by Jim. I had a role model. And what I ended up doing was I started to realize that actually life is a mirror. And this is the same for you as well. What inspires me about I secretly harbor within myself. See, and this is where it gets a bit spooky because what you judge in somebody else, you're pointing fingers back at you. So when you judge negatively, you're secretly judging yourself. But also when you look up to somebody, you're actually also seeing what is within you. You just haven't brought it out yet. So I started to use this. Once I understood this and I thought, okay, if life is a mirror and these things are inside of me, I now need to bring them out. Now, how do we bring them out? We start to tell ourselves we are these things, even if we're not. So my way of doing this was I used my I ams. I started to tell myself, I am educated, a master of communication, and I'm a business master. One thing that I tell myself all the time. So I remember being clearing waste in the back of the truck because we started our business with a single truck. And I was in a tracksuit, pouring rain, shoveling rubbish and waste from a building site into the back of a truck. And I would recycle. I'm a business master. I'm a business master. The belief that I got from myself by doing this over a period of, I've been doing this now 15 years, is key. Because I wouldn't get to where I am today without the belief in myself. So I used the inspiring people in my life. Now, I didn't know Jim, but I spent a lot of time with Jim because I used to play his CDs. But essentially what I did is what inspires me about him, and I brought that into myself. I am now educated. I am now a master of communication, and I am also a business master. I spoke it, abracadabra. Abracadabra in etymology, if you actually study the term, bara and daber, it has its roots in 2 Hebrew or Aramaic words, bara and daber. Bara is create, daber is to speak. I create as I speak. You create as you speak. I've created all of this because I believed it first. And the same is true with you. Before you go on this journey, you can't go on this journey without congruency. You have to have this inner strength because the outside is going to be so volatile and you can't control what's going on the outside. But the only thing you can do is control what's going on in here and what's in here. And you do that through your language, through your words, you create. Okay, so now that we have an idea into who we are, as in what lights us up, what we're passionate about, what our hurdles and tests have been in our life and what we've overcome. And this may have bubbled up some ideas around what it is that you might want to pursue. We've now looked at role models and looked at what inspires us about other people and realized that this is actually a mirror to what's really within us. We just need to bring it out. And we use our I ams to build self-belief into the journey, into becoming that person that you want to become. We now need to take the idea that you've got and we need to validate it. And we need to develop that idea. So they say ideas are a dime a dozen, but people who execute on them are priceless. And what does that mean? It means that anyone can come up with an idea. Most people do have ideas for businesses, but how many people actually go on a journey of actually doing and taking action? And I think one of the most important things we need to do here is we need to validate the idea. Validate the idea, stage 3. And I think it's key to understand that not all great ideas lead to good businesses. Validated ideas lead to great businesses because we need to now go into the market and do some research and understand what is going on outside. Exercise 3 is called the Google test. And the Google test basically is that. Let's start Googling. The idea that you've got, or the challenge that you're facing, or the problem that you might need to build a business to attack, are people talking about it online? Go to Reddit. Is there forums on Reddit? Is there YouTube discussions? Is there videos about it already? Is there social media posts around it? So get to understand, Reddit's quite a good one because there's a lot of discussion and it's a lot of back and forth. You can see what people are actually typing in and searching for and asking as questions. So doing some research around what it is that people need and what problems people have is really, really important about your specific area. And the next thing that I would say is there, so this is one, and the two is, let's look at similar companies in the market. Are there competitors? Are there people that are already solving that problem that you're looking to solve? And it doesn't have to be somebody that does exactly the same as what you're thinking, but are there people out there that exist in this space? And what you're best off doing is starting to do some research. Let's not look at the people for where they are today. It's well and good, that's great. Okay, let's look at their website. Let's look at what they're doing in terms of their, if you want to go into the finances of the business, you can do that looking at Companies House in the UK. You can look at all the finances, but let's look at where they started from. What was their history? The company's history? What was the owner as well? What was their history? Where do they sell? Are they doing it most likely online, or are they doing it offline? You'll find this. Do they have a social media landing page that you can buy products through or services through or whatever? Is it a page that's optimized in Google? Are they using search engine optimizations? Are they using pay-per-click Google ads? Are they using ads and sponsored ads in Meta? And then what you're probably best off doing is call them, email them, see how they interact, become a prospect. And they're going to give you clues into what you should do. So they might say, okay, right, well, thank you for giving us a call. They might think you're a potential customer. This would be a window shopper almost. They might send you some information. They might send you some pricing. They might send you some information as in a leaflet of what not to do and what to do, in terms of like an education piece. And it's really, really important to start to do this and start to build up an idea mentally of who operates in the market and how they operate and how they're going to market, and do they use information to bring you in and build a relationship with you first before asking you to buy and stuff like that. That's really, really key. So the next bit is the fourth stage. And the fourth stage is actually bucking up the courage and finding your voice. So now that you've Google tested it, what you now need to start to do is you now need to start to prospect. You now need to start to develop the one core skill at the very beginning of all entrepreneurial journeys, which is sales. Go out back to these forums, back to these social media profiles, and start to reach out to people with the aim of speaking to them, researching and getting interviews under your belt. And nothing is better than speaking to the market about their problem that shapes what it is that you want to now deliver. So one thing that I'd say is really, really important if we're going to start doing an exercise is to prospect. And what you might do, you might go out and you might say, right, I'll create a little Facebook page. For example, in my scenario, helping entrepreneurs become financially free. I might reach out to entrepreneurial groups in LinkedIn or on Facebook. I would put out a post, or I'd private message people saying, I'm here helping entrepreneurs become financially free through an investment strategy or whatever. Would you care to give me 20 minutes of your time? And I'm really here to help and understand what your situation is and want to see if there's a way I can help you and stuff like that. So what you'll find is that you'll get a lot of rejection. That's sales. I remember when I started this, I did probably about 30 ICP interviews, which is ICP, Ideal Client Profiles, interviews with people. And basically I got a lot of information back and asked a range of questions and would help me understand what the market actually needs. And I think that's really, really key. It doesn't exist all in your head. The market should tell you what you should do next. How you get these people is you put out a post, and the post should say something like, are you feeling stuck with X? Whatever, insert here sort of thing. I'm conducting some research and I'm looking to speak to 20 people about helping people earn more money through their business, for example. Private message me and we can chat. I am here to help. And all you're basically doing at the beginning is you're not selling to anybody. You're positioning yourself as somebody that's here to help. That's what you want to do. You're going to try and help people. And what you're also trying to do here is you're trying to elicit information from the market about their interpretation of the world. their model of the world. And sales and prospecting and really understanding how they see the world. These are your ICPs, ideal client profiles, that you're reaching out to, and getting an understanding of the way that they think is really, really critical. It's really crucial. Doing this is going to help shape your consciousness, help shape your mindset around the idea and around going to market. And what you need to ask them are a range of questions. So these are the questions that you can go to market and ask your prospects and ask the ideal clients that you need to now elicit this information. So number one, and you might not ask all of these, but you're going to ask at least some of these. What are your biggest frustrations? So that might be health, not having money. That might be building sites, construction sites. What are the biggest frustrations on a building site? So you want to start to get an understanding of what their biggest frustrations are. And then you want to know, what do you feel most pain with? So what is causing most pain, or what do you feel most pain with? So that starts to give this a bit more, okay, it's more than a frustration. What is painful? So these things are frustrating me, but these things are causing me pain. 3, what makes achieving whatever it is so urgent for you? And that gives you an idea into what they're looking for, what their desired outcome is, and why they have a certain desired outcome. So what makes achieving less stress on your building site, or that health that you're looking for, so urgent for you? Because I want to X, Y, and Z, I want to whatever. You get an insight into what it is that their desires are. 4, if you need to search on Google or YouTube for the solution, what would you type in? And basically you're getting an idea into the keywords and what they're looking for and how they would explain their problem. And this is really key when you're trying to go to market, because you want to do it not in what you think, in what they think. 5, what solutions have you looked at so far? 6, how much have you spent on trying to solve this to now? And 7, if this is a really, really good one, if you could wave a magic wand, what solution would you come up with? I remember speaking to an ICP and asked that question when I was doing some interviews, and they said, there is no place on YouTube that you can go to learn how to run a business. There's nowhere where I can learn finance, where I can look sales, marketing, all of these things in one place from somebody that I can trust. I was like, wow, okay, I didn't know that. I'd spent my whole life on YouTube learning how to run a business, and she was actually right. I'd had to go from all these different people and piece it all together. So I thought, right, well, there you go. Let me build a YouTube channel on how to run a business and bring it all together into one channel. And then 8, what would you invest for this magic solution? And essentially what you've got there, you've got 8 key questions for any product, any service, to go out to any market and elicit feedback, understand that market, and get exactly what you need to start to shape how to think about the solution and the business that you want to drive forward. Now, stage 5 is about creating your MVP. Now that you have feedback from the market, you have some ideas around what it is that's going to shape your idea, you need to build something. There's a very, very basic. Eric Ries, he wrote a book called The Lean Startup, and it's very, very good in the startup, in the entrepreneurship world, because it helped people have a systemized approach to starting. And the MVP stands for minimal viable product. And that minimal viable product means you don't build it and they will come. You set up something that is so simple as a very starter idea, product or service that you go to market with, and you're constantly refining it through feedback of your customers. So you might have, for example, a course around healing your gut to improve your skin. You will come up with something very, very basic, and you'll go to market with that. And you'll go out and actually start to help people with this very, very basic version. You don't want to go and spend hundreds of hours and thousands of pounds or dollars on building this thing. You want to actually have something which is very, very low ticket, very, very small price, very easy to implement, easy to run with, and you start to use that as your point of reference for when you actually go to market, and then you refine and get better over time. And that's really key. Don't build it and they will come. Build something small and start to build it when they're there already. That's the key thing. So the exercise that we have now is, can you create something, and something being a MVP, a minimal viable product, minimum features around the product or the service, and a minimal way of you actually delivering it. Can you create something that people can use, that will help them, that serves to get you to stage 2? And that might be product, service, version 2. You build version 1 and then you improve. And this is how software companies build their products. They have version 1, they go to market, they get feedback, they then start refining on the features that the customer said they want more of or less of or whatever, and then they build a version 2 and then a version 3, and then that's how they get to perfection. The same is true with you. And also what you want to do with this as well is based on the research that you've done, asking people how much would you pay and looking at the competition, you now want to set a fair price. And the thing is, when you're coming into a market, you want to have a promotion. You might have a promotion, a starter promotion or whatever. It's like, usually this thing costs £300, but we're slashing that and we're going to do this for £169 because it's a starter promotion. This offer is for the first 100 people that use it. This is what we're going to do. So you come out with a fair price that gives you something back that shows you that there is a market for it, because it's all well and good doing things for free. But if you actually start to charge for things, you start telling yourself, okay, this idea has legs. People are starting to pay for it, and you discount it, that you start getting people into your world to the point where they're like, yeah, that makes sense, because you're like, we're offering version 1. It's not going to be the full price. We can't justify charging a full price, but we're going to slash it because we need your feedback. We need a tester group, and we're going to give you a discount that shows how valuable you are to us, but we're going to need help building this as version 2. And that's how you use basically promotions, especially at the beginning. How do you get people in to give you the feedback, use the product, use the service? And that's going to allow you to get to version 2 of the product in no time. The 6th stage is really starting to, once you've tested your offer and you've got people in, or you want to go to market, you may be bringing people in through your network, or you might think that actually, before I can bring people in, I need to now go to people that I don't know. So I now need to build a message for this. What is my messaging? What does this mean? How do I go to market with this? So at this stage, it's time to create a marketing message, a key message for your audience that encompasses what it is that you do, what it is that your product does, what it is that your service does. And this should serve to help the prospects and the people you're speaking to know exactly what it is that you do. And there are 3 versions. I'm going to use my James Jacob brand as an example for this to give you an idea. So the next thing that we're going to do is a key message. Key message. The most important thing around messaging is for marketing. So positioning. How are you positioning yourself? And what is that message? And there are 3 versions of this. You don't have to use all 3. You can come up with maybe 1 or 2, but they're used in different scenarios. So for example, my James Jacob brand, I have 3 marketing messages, and they all come under the I help X with X so they can X. I help target audience with problem so they can desire, right? So for example, short version, I help 6-figure businesses scale to 7 figures. Second version that I'm going to share today is the long version. And that long version, there is another version which is a bit longer, but I'm just going to share 2 today. The outcome plus ideal client. And that gets really specific into not just the outcome, but who it's for. So for example, mine is I help 6-figure business owners who want to impact this world, but feel stuck or unfulfilled, scale to 7 figures and live the life of their dreams. That is the all-encompassing outcome plus ideal client. And that's where you want to get to, where you can literally say as a marketing message, this is what I do. I help 6-figure business owners, which is the ICP of where they are now. The problem is that they're stuck, but they want to impact this world. So they have something bigger than them that they want to do, but they feel stuck. And because of that, they're unfulfilled because they're not realizing their vision or their dreams. But I help them scale to 7 figures and live a life on their dreams. That's really key. Once you can encompass it in a sentence like that, you've got it. The stage where we are now is now about building consistency. And this is where most people quit. And the reason is because they don't have the purpose and the passion and the why behind the idea. They're just going out to make money. And we've covered that. So now it's about building consistency. And the thing is with that, the reason why they fail is because they expect things to happen fast, and they don't. It's going to take time. You don't just put seed in the soil, put some water in it, and then you have an oak tree overnight. It doesn't work like that. Shiny object syndrome is not for the real entrepreneur. This is going to take time to develop. You need to fan the flame of the idea. You need to work with the seeds of the soil, the laws of nature, to be able to see things start to grow, and it takes time to grow. But if you want to build something significant, it's going to take consistency over time, and that requires discipline and patience. That's the most important thing. But what we're gonna do now is we're gonna start to build consistency. And you do that, you say, how am I gonna build consistency over 10 years? Well, you shorten the time frame. So the next phase is build consistency. The next exercise is for consistency for this stage is build consistency by committing to a 30-day task. Now, that could be anything, and they say it takes 28 days to build a new habit. So let's think about something that your business needs right now, or this idea needs right now. And this is something that you need to now start to build a habit for. So set yourself a task, set yourself a 30-day challenge. What is it that you need to do tomorrow to actually start to take this idea and actually take it to the next level? And I would say that it has to be proactive. It has to be sales and marketing focused. So is that posting on socials? A 30-day challenge to post on socials? Is it a 30-day challenge to start to prospect and direct message? Is it a 30-day challenge to build up a network and start to add people, add ICPs, ideal client profiles into your network? A form of outreach. And it's got to be sales and marketing focused. So all of these things, posting on socials, prospect and direct message, or going out to building a network or whatever, are the things that are going to be proactive. All of these three things, posting on socials, prospecting and sending out direct messages, building a network around your ICPs, are all going to serve the purpose and are all going to be things that you might need to do going forward consistently forever. They might not work. You might have to change it up a little bit, but we're going to start building this habit today by committing to one of these things over the next 30 days. And once you've done that and you've got people using your MVP, you've got some ideal client profiles around, and you've got people, you're conversing with people and they're using this minimum viable product that you've actually put out to market, we're going to start to do that refining, iterative approach to making it better for version 2. So the next exercise is obtaining feedback. So the people that have paid you, the people that have actually taken you up on the offer, we're going to ask a range of questions. Things like what works for you, what doesn't. Things like what were the problems, what would you improve? And then how can we expand our offering more? This questioning is critical. And what you do, if you've got a group of people and you've got ideally 5 to 10 people giving you this sort of feedback, you're going to start to see trends. And the whole point is you don't need to have the ideas. The ideas exist. The ideas for growing your business exist in your customers' heads. Start going into your customers' heads. Start understanding how they're thinking. Start getting feedback. And a lot of people don't do this. They build on the inside instead of going out to market and actually getting that feedback. So you need to now start to refine your product and your offering. They might say, well, what about going back to the skin specialist that's trying to heal people through the gut, for example? How can we expand our offering more? Well, is there a more tailored approach where I can get some consultative and explain to you how I felt during this initial take up of the offer, whatever? And you've got, okay, right, well, maybe I can offer for people that take this up for $169, for an extra £150, there's an hour's consultation or whatever. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, you need to start to get the market's feedback of what they're thinking, and then you start to expand your offer based on that. And then the last but not least is really, really important. It's what most business owners don't do. And it's very, very important to do this at the beginning, because I'm telling you, if you don't do it at the beginning, it only becomes harder the busier you get. And this is all about creating scalable systems, building the business today for tomorrow. And in that, you don't want it to rely solely on you. You want to be able to have a system that works for itself. So creating scalable systems is exactly that. Everything that you do, tasks, 1, 2, 3, whatever, everything that you're doing in the business, paying suppliers, outreaching on social media, speaking to customers, I want you to document using what we do in our business. We use Scribe, which is a screen recording, and it basically allows you to record the screen record yourself, or you can set up a Loom video, screen record yourself doing these tasks. And make it as if you're training somebody, even if you have no one in the business already, or you might be getting people and thinking about getting people into the business. Start doing it now. Start having a system of documented processes, procedures that you can bring people in and say, here you go, here's a knowledge base of all of the way that we work. And you can start doing this for every new thing that you start to do. And it's going to make your delegation a lot easier once you've got this. Because when you start to bring people into your business and you go, look, here's how we do things, they're less reliant on you, more reliant on the system, And there's no excuse for not doing it properly. Whereas if you don't communicate it properly, they have an excuse not to do it properly. And in actual fact, if you don't do this, it's your fault. It's not their fault if they do the wrong job. But if you've got all of this and you've shown them how to do it and they still get it wrong, then it's their fault. So creating scalable systems is so important for your freedom. Start early, get it done early. Make sure that you don't get into this rat race of chasing your tail. And I see a lot of business owners in that place because they didn't document their systems early. So that's it for today. Hopefully that was valuable. What I'm gonna do for you is, for anyone that has read this and has come up with an idea and wants help to explore it or expand it further, if you leave the idea in the comments and what you're thinking, I will help you expand and give you some clues and ideas into where it is that you need to take it next. So anyone that has an idea, comment, and I'm sure to get back to everyone in the comments and help you develop your ideas further. Until next time.